From WNYT, Albany, in HD. This is Forum 13.
Welcome back to Forum 13. I'm Phil Bailey. We all pretty much live our lives in denial, but at one point we may well have to enter a retirement community. We're joined by Adam DeSantis, who is Director of Community Relations at Eastwick Village, and Helen Volk, who is President of Beyond Clutter. Also, you play a very important role in this stage in life, and we'll get to that. Adam, we're going to talk with you first. Is it fair to say most of us, or many of us, do not plan ahead to the point when we may need to enter a retirement community?
Absolutely fair to say that. It's usually a situation arises where someone is all of a sudden finds themselves injured or living in a situation that's no longer appropriate for their needs. Yeah. And at that point usually have not educated themselves as to what the options are for retirement living.
What's the percentage of, say, the graduating class of college seniors this year thinking or saying, yeah, I won't be moving into a retirement community before I die? I mean, it's the last thing they'd think of on graduation day, but that's kind of the point, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody's thinking about it, years in advance. It's something that comes up one day, and they're usually behind the eight ball, so to speak. Again, they've not educated themselves as to what's out there. And that's really what's important, I think, as you're starting to age and maybe find out that it's harder for you to live in your own home, recognizing that first, that maybe your current living situation is not as safe as it should be. You probably shouldn't be out shoveling snow, raking leaves in the heat, having to take care of those things around the house that can create an unsafe situation.
I think I read on your website 10,000 people in the United States turn 65 every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a staggering number.
Wow. Is there anything wrong with staying in your home if you are healthy and if you are financially able to?
I couldn't say that there's necessarily anything wrong with staying in your home if you're able to, but it might not be the best decision. So many people come to me on a daily basis, residents who live at Eastwick, and say, if I had known what this was going to be like a year ago, I would have moved in a year ago. And it's not until you actually are living in that new situation that you find out how much you enjoy the experience. The one thing that you don't have, you may not have living in your own home, is the social component. And that's really what we stress at our community, is getting involved with our community that we have at Eastwick, but also being involved in the greater community through volunteer opportunities. We do a lot with local organizations and charities to help our residents stay involved and stay active and learn new things.
So probably even at 35 and 40, 45, 50, people, I would guess most people are still saying, well, I don't know about 50, but I don't think I'm going to need this. So when does that change? When do you start saying, oh, yeah, okay, I get it?
It's really dependent on a number of factors. You could be a 62 years old and find yourself needing a knee replacement. And you're now no longer comfortable using the stairs in your home. So you've got an upstairs that you're not using, you're paying heat and electricity for that space, and you're paying taxes on a space that's too large, that's underutilized. And so the decision to move to a retirement community can come at all different ages. I think what's disappointing to see is people who wait too long to recognize that the home is no longer the appropriate place for them to live.
Yeah, you mentioned right at the top, you said people find themselves behind the eight ball, which suggests to me that you're saying most people wait too long.
Absolutely, absolutely. Far too many people wait until it's no longer their decision to make. Either the family has stepped in and is making the decision, mom, dad, you can't live in your home anymore, we need to make a move. And I think that generates a feeling where people no longer have their sense of independence. And that's one of the greatest fears for seniors, is losing that sense of independence. And people tie that with living in your home. And I think that fear is misplaced. People find when they move to a retirement community that they actually have a greater sense of independence, because they're no longer reliant on family to come over and take care of the house, to shovel the snow, to rake the leaves, to cut the lawn, and creates an opportunity where somebody is empowered, They can control their own life. They can get involved in the types of activities that maybe they didn't have previously. A lot of retirement communities provide transportation services. You're not relying on your son or daughter to take you to the store, take you to doctor's appointments. And so it is empowering to make that move.
All right, Helen, so this is where you come in. And you sort of wade into this, especially if, as Adam says, most people are starting behind the 8 ball. Your company is called Beyond Clutter.
Beyond Clutter, yes.
And I think your role in this, if I understand correctly, is the day I decide to move into a retirement community, I have a house full of memories, collections, sentimental items, jewelry, and I think I can't take it all with me. Is that right?
That's right. And you're right. You couldn't take it all with you, because one of the big aspects of moving into a retirement community is downsizing. You're going to go from a 6 or 8 room home to a 3-room apartment, possibly, depending on which size you want. And that automatically says, okay, 8 rooms to 3 means I need to part with more than half of what I own. So the downsizing piece, the piece of letting go of possessions, for most people is the most daunting. It's a lot of work, it consumes a lot of time, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of memories involved in our attachment to owning things, especially for seniors, because many of them have lived in this house 40, 50, 60, 70 years. It's not just the possessions, but the house itself that looms so large that they're going to have difficulty getting rid of. So it's the idea of parting with close friends, even though they're inanimate objects, that they've had around them for years. But it's also the biggest piece, and what often keeps people stuck in their houses. How am I going to get rid of this? What do I do? Where do I start? Where do I donate these? How do I get the family involved? Who's going to want what? Are they going to have family fights? You know, my kids, well, how do I decide among children I love? The whole gamut of decision making is daunting. I mean, it's daunting for younger people, more or less, the elderly.
Yeah, okay. Well, you open a lot of boxes there, so now we're going to ask you to, you know, fill a couple of them. Because, yeah, now you mentioned donations, so maybe, I mean, generally you should think, what, family gets first dibs, right?
Usually
when I suddenly
family.
say my house has to, you know, yeah.
Family gets first dibs, but you know, a lot of younger people aren't going to want a lot of this stuff, and that's a stress in itself. Who's going to want the things I've loved for years?
Right. So donations, what? That might include museums, such as, I mean, we're losing our World War II veterans at an amazing rate. And now, really soon, we're going to the World War II veterans who have already passed, and their children took some of their items, some of their memories. You know, when those children, when they're ready to go, who knows if the grandchildren of that World War II veteran is going to want this stuff. Say this nice, but I'm not really attached to it, not like my mom and dad were. So museums, is that one possibility?
Museums is a possibility. Most seniors are involved in some kind of organization, whether it's a church or synagogue. Those organizations may want some of their things to raise funds, but also colleges and universities they attended. I once had a former professor able to donate all of her papers to the college at which she taught. People should not close doors. It's making phone calls. I had a retired professor who donated his, what would have been, old textbooks back to the library because they had used them for historical purposes. Obviously, they were no longer new, but the library could add them to their collection so that you could see where the industry has come or the profession has come. So it's making all those calls, making those contacts is part of the work. There's a lot of decision making, and it's overwhelming.
All right, we'll get back to you on this. So, Adam, I want to move into your retirement community, and there's some furniture I love, there's some artwork I love. Am I going to be able to bring any of it with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thought that moving into a retirement community, you're leaving all your possessions at home is absolutely not the truth. I'm in residence apartments, you know, at least once a day. And one of the services that Helen's great in providing is helping a resident set up their apartment so that it feels like their home. So you still have your favorite chair, your sofa, and those pieces of artwork and decorations that are really important to you that you want to bring. So absolutely, you can still set up your apartment so that it feels like your home.
I can see something that might occur to somebody who's moving in and they want to bring their furniture and some of their favorite things. When they pass, do you own it or does it go back to their family?
All the possessions belong to the family.
All right. How does one find the right fit in a retirement community? Because there are lots available and there are a lot of considerations.
Absolutely, and it's confusing. There are terms that are interchangeable. There are new terms. There are new designations for types of communities coming out all the time. You hear independent living, senior living, retirement living, assisted living, nursing homes, and so really the internet, as always, is a great resource. Google for people who are not in need of medical assistance. You're really looking at an independent or retirement community. Those terms are really interchangeable. So Google those terms in conjunction with the town where you live or a town where your family lives. We see a lot of that, people who are moving to be closer to their grandchildren. There's an organization locally, the Albany Guardian Society. They put out a wonderful resource. You can go to their website and download it. And it's broken out by county and then by types of facilities. So it's a wonderful resource to find out what's available in the Capital District.
If I'm 70 and I feel great, and I certainly expect to, but I decide it's time to move into a community, 70, 80, whatever, but I feel great, so I'm going to move into this apartment thing. Do I want to look for a place that is affiliated with or on the grounds has assisted living? Because I recognize the inevitable, and I'm going to need help at some point. But ideally, I'd like to stay around the new friends I've made. I'm familiar with staff. I'm familiar. Is that a wise move?
It's really dependent on a person's given situation. I wouldn't say it is necessarily an important consideration. You've moved before in your life. And it's another transition if you need to move from independent living to assisted living. And our goal at Eastwick is to keep people active, keep them feeling great, so that they don't have to transition into into the assisted living or the nursing home. And by staying active, getting involved in aqua aerobics classes, Tai Chi, Pilates, staying young, and keeping your mind active will help hopefully put that off.
And keeping your mind active and the social interaction that you say comes with a retirement community, and maybe for somebody who has become isolated, maybe their spouse has passed away, family members aren't so close, and everybody's busy. You can't come over every day, even if you'd want to. Your neighbors have changed, so you're getting isolated. This is something that can really spark your mind, really sort of, actually kind of, you can be better than you were in the last couple of years?
It's the greatest benefit to moving to a retirement community. I remember working with a prospect in their family, and the daughter saying to me, "Oh, Mom's kind of a homebody. She won't get involved in things." And now she's lived there for 2 years, and she participates in the party planning committee. She's part of the gardening club. We see her for movies and she's in the pool. Nobody thought she would get in the pool. And it's, you kind of find that sense of independence again, and it's something that people really appreciate when they're able to find that again.
All right. Helen, your specialty at Beyond Clutter is helping people separate themselves from their material things, because they can't take it all with them.
Right.
When they move into Eastwick Village. Or anywhere. I don't mean just anywhere.
But they keep their favorites. And the whole point of downsizing is, with all of us, we hold on to things. Even when they've lost their connection to us, we just don't want to get rid of them. So as Adam said, you get to keep all of your favorites, those things that make home for you. It's getting rid of the rest, those things that aren't as meaningful. That is what downsizing's all about. That if you're going from 6 rooms to 3, you need to get rid of all the stuff that's what I call the fluff. It gets in the way of what you love and enjoy.
What's the hardest thing, do you think, people have the hardest time separating from?
I find that most people struggle is big dining room tables, because that's where all the family got around. They had these dining room tables for 6 or 8, or with the leaf 12. Now, that table that meant love and family and dinners is going. And usually no one in the family wants it either. So that's a hard decision because now they're going to have a table for 4. So that is something difficult because they can take their photographs. Many of them are digital anyway. They can take the main artwork. They can take their favorite chairs, their sofa, and all of that with them. It's that dining room table that meant so much about love and family. That's really difficult for people to part with.
So what do you do with this stuff? When you make the difficult decisions about what to keep and what has to go, what do you do with it?
You have 3 primary options. 1, you can throw it away, and most people, when we talk about dining room tables, are not going to do that. But there's a lot of stuff going out to the trash, let's face that. 2, you can donate items. There's a lot of nonprofits in need who serve the needy, and I would know who could take that dining room table. If no one in the family wants it, but as you mentioned earlier, family comes first. If someone in the family wants it, great. That means you'll get to go visit it. So, as my mother used to say, I give you things so I can come visit it. And by the way, yeah, I got into helping people downsize due to my mom. And I know what Adam says is correct. She was very isolated in her elderly life. My father had passed. She moved in with my brother, but he worked all the time, I worked all the time. She was alone a lot. But she also passed before all these retirement communities came into being, and she would have loved it. She would have grown younger, and I know that.
I'm surprised the option you didn't mention is sell it.
They can sell things, yes, but you'd be amazed how many seniors don't take that as an option.
By
the time they deal with the family and friends, whatever nonprofit organizations they're already connected with, there's not a lot left to sell. But if they want to sell things, then we can discuss options, whether you do an estate sale, whether you get on eBay or Craigslist and do it online, do advertisements. There's a lot of options for selling. That's not always the best one.
Adam, I want to ask you before we go, because this is probably at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, what's the financial arrangement when somebody enters a retirement community?
There are different models. At Eastwick Village, we have no large entrance fee, so it's an annual lease, pay your rent month to month. There are communities that have large entrance fees and might have meal programs that are factored in. And really, I think the first step in choosing a retirement community is educating yourself. Get on the internet. Use the Guardian Society resource. Find out what's out there so that you're able to make the decision rather than the decision being made for you.
Probably, are there any insurance? Does insurance cover this sort of thing?
It would depend. For communities that are offering medical service, that's certainly a possibility.
And how far ahead should we book? There are waiting lists at a lot of these places, aren't there?
Absolutely, absolutely. And waiting lists can be extensive. They can run 2-3 years. And so it's best, as I said, to educate yourself early and make the decision sooner versus later. The worst thing is to find yourself in a situation where now I'm ready to sell the house and I'm ready to downsize and I want to move in, and there's no place for you to go.
Is there too, and then we got to go, but is there too soon? I mean, could you, if you're 60, can you say, this is where I want to live in 15, 20 years? Is that too soon to get on the waiting list? Say, just hold a place for me.
No. Educate yourself.
All right. All right. Adam DeSantis with Eastwick Village and Helen Volk with Beyond Clutter. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Forum 13 today. I'm Phil Bailey. We'll see you next week.